Oh, what fun it is. Those general education classes that you have to endure while you're a teenager, especially if you are studying perhaps English literature. And I think I get flashbacks of, I guess, a ninth grade English class. And I think there is this moment of utter dread when the honors English teacher said that we're going to read The Grapes of Wrath. That's a long book. There's a bunch of dust. I think there's some farmers and a bunch of devastation, and fields with no crops. All I remember about that book was like, yeah, it's a classic, but I think this ninth grade mind would rather read Shakespearean English, and that's saying something. Now, I'm not knocking The Grapes of Wrath. It's a great book, and by the time I read the whole thing, it was interesting. Definitely the historical piece of it was fascinating. And but I digress. I think I remember in class the cringes that came up, and the rejection when it came to reading Shakespeare. Now, I kind of like Shakespeare. I actually think I read most of Shakespeare's sonnets, tragedies, and comedies while I was in college. I had a whole entire semester on Shakespeare and Chaucer and Spenser and British Romantic poets. And actually read Chaucer in medieval English. So that definitely was quite interesting. Actually, I'm quite happy about that because it allowed me to read Train Spotting in the original language after really liking the movie. And that was definitely refreshing because the English translation of that book is a no-go. But what do we got here? So today we're talking on writing mental health. With Gothic Androgyn. This is a series that I do, and today we are talking about being conscious, and I'm calling red card on Hamlet. And so Hamlet is one of Shakespeare's plays. I believe it's a tragedy. The king of Denmark, who is a ghost, visits his son Hamlet, who is to be the next king, and basically tells him to get revenge for the king's death. Hamlet goes through some gyrations in his mind, and I think I'm not going to spoil it, but there's a to-do, and I guess Hamlet is going to kvetch about getting revenge. So I'm not going to get into it more than that. You can go read it. It's definitely a classic, and I would definitely recommend it. Outside of a school requirement where it's a slog, if you want a challenge and read some brilliant writing, Shakespeare is definitely one of them. I would highly recommend it. So why am I calling red card on Hamlet? Well, Hamlet's father, as a ghost, after he's dead, comes back and visits his son and says, "Thou shalt go get revenge." Sets off a chain of events, blah, 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 on and on. Shakespeare's tragedy. So, why red card on Hamlet? Because the story is basically about Hamlet and the ghosts of the past. So, in order for me to move on in this new world and new universe, one of the things I need to do is chuck the baggage over the side of the deck into the Arctic Ocean so that it can sink below the icebergs. And the whales will quite be happy, and I think the dolphins will actually use their sonar to avoid it and help it go down faster, so that we can discard the baggage that is causing kvetches of herding cats in the mental space. So yeah, I was kind of disappeared for 2 weeks. I had some personal mind stuff to deal with, and so as part of mental health awareness, I think it's important to bring that up. And I am working on understanding the law of attraction and positivity. And I think in a previous video I talked about sometimes positivity is difficult, especially when you're dealing with anxiety and depression, and it can become a little grating of like, well, just be positive. Well, I've been depressed for the last 6 months or last 4 years, or, I'm diagnosed with anxiety and I'm just supposed to like throw that out the window and it's just supposed to be disappeared tomorrow. Reality check, I think it's going to take a little bit more than that. And I know that I myself have become a bit frustrated. Now, I know, and I would say that, I think it's awesome that, the 5-year-olds and the young, go-getter entrepreneurs that are totally out there hustling, like doing it the right way and making bank. I mean, you guys are so awesome. The things that you guys have been able to do on a short notice because you just get it and it just clicks. That is awesome. You guys have learned how to, it's not about working 80 hours a week. When I was running around doing whiz-bang skunk works, high technology, cool, jet engine stuff, well, yeah, you were sleeping under your desk, drinking, neon red Mountain Dew, and espresso coffee, and, you were up all hours of the night in case something broke. And you had to fix it and get it done, moving at 1 billion miles an hour. Well, hustling is hustling, but the world don't work like that anymore. And that's one of the things that I am in the process of learning to discard. And let me tell you, the level of frustration at times has been quite interesting because I'm literally fighting with myself, and I'm a sensitive person, so I pick up on energies coming from all over the place, inside, outside, whatever, from across the street, down the road, or, on some other longitude and latitude that's not even in, the general vicinity, air traffic control airspace, or the ley lines are, going the other way because we're on the opposite hemisphere. But, yeah. And when I'm picking that stuff up, and then I'm here trying to understand the law of attraction, and let me tell you, I'm a law of attraction idiot newbie, who, I may be an idiot sometimes, and I can definitely, relate to that. But, sometimes my brain just will not go there. And I'll be positive for, 10 minutes, and then something will catch my attention, and then we're in the baggage spiral, crawling up Mount Everest on glass from 5 years ago, because you had a PTSD flashback of something, and now you're stuck in it, and some of that is, ADHD, rumination, or Asperger's routine, but a lot of it is, shadow work that needs to be done, and past trauma that I still need to deal with, and okay, some of it is, people from the outside, doing stuff to me. Some of it's me doing stuff to myself, but I also have to take responsibility for, if someone's stomping on my boundaries, well, I guess I let you stomp. and some of that is self-esteem and lack of respect. And that's definitely something last month that I was posted some videos on and was working on. But let's go back to Hamlet and the red card and ghosts. So let's talk about this red card and ghosts of the past. So let me give you an example. So if you, when you were young, you were growing up and, somebody asked you when you were 5, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you're like, well, I want to be a forward for, the French national football team. Okay? Or, I want to be Manchester United goalie. Okay? So let's just say that. But then, like, when you're a teenager, you happen to, get in a bicycle accident and, now you have difficulty walking. Well, you may not be able to be, a professional, top-rated football, soccer star on television, getting accolades all over. But that doesn't mean, if you have, for example, a prosthetic leg, that you couldn't be a star in the Special Olympics. That doesn't mean that you couldn't play with, a team in your area. That doesn't mean that your dream is squashed forever. All that means is that it's going to look different. But that doesn't mean to give up your dreams. So say, let's make it easy. Say you want to be a poet. Okay, and while you were growing up, you were writing poetry. But then one day, you have something and you end up going blind. Well, okay, so now your eyesight is channeled, but you can be a poet in Braille. You can still be a poet. Your dream is still there. Whatever that dream is, okay, sure. So, instead of using a pen, you use crayons. Or instead of driving a car, you ride a bike. Or instead of running, you have to walk. Or you want to be a famous chef and make pastries, but you're allergic to the dough, but you can handle any type of vegetables. So why couldn't you become a Michelin 5-star chef in a French vegan restaurant? Okay, so you're not a pastry chef, but, Michelin star is a Michelin star, and okay, so you're not making cake, but, you got some mean asparagus there. So, yeah. So, let's get back to this. Red card on Hamlet. The ghosts of the past and expectations and things that you can and cannot do. Okay? That doesn't mean that you have to, give up your dreams. And so in Hamlet, Hamlet's father, the king of Denmark, comes and visits him and says, get revenge on his death. Now, my dad died a couple of years ago. And at the time, I was in an abusive relationship, and actually, which literally happened 4 or 5 days after my father died. And I hadn't seen him for a long period of time, but I got to spend, his last week with him at his bedside. And that was a big deal because, my dad got the opportunity to fly in jet planes, and that was one of the reasons why I published 4 GridScan books in the same year, literally 1 book a month. So that, and that was January, February, March, April, so that I could release book number 4, originally titled GridScan Insurrection, which was literally about pilots on the battleship Escalon for a fight between the Pacific Territories, I guess you would say the light, and the Atlantea Federation, which I guess you would say the dark. And it was literally a world war for the fate of of the world in the series. And whatever I did not care. I spent days and nights, 24 hours a day, for weeks on end, writing books up and down and whatever, not sleeping, just so I could get book 4 published so he could read it. Now, the Battleship Escalon arc goes through book number 4 and number 5. It resolves in number 5. My father never read number 5. But my father read number 4. And I remember he used to talk to me about, he had spent some time, he had done some radar systems. I'm not really sure about it because I think there was some special stuff. He had done some systems for some high-tech military stuff. And he had spent some time on the battleship. And I remember that when he first read the book, he literally would ring me a new hole if I got something on the battleship wrong. Like if I placed something in the wrong area, or I did not get the cats right, or there was something wrong with the deck, or there was something wrong, he would definitely tell me about it. And I remember when we were watching Macross, and we also watched this, I sent him this disc of Yukikaze, which is about pilots in the Fairy Air Force fighting aliens. I think, where are they? In Alaska? Or Antarctica. Yeah, and, we would sit there and talk for hours, and he would tell me about, well, this is accurate and that's not accurate. And he really loved in Yukikaze because there's this part about behind the scenes where they're actually talking to, pilots in the Japanese Defense Force, and how they actually film the scenes with the real planes. So I remember when I first sent him the book, he was ripping me apart. We had to rewrite. I republished the book and I had to rewrite a section because I had things wrong. I had something in the wrong place in the cockpit of one of the fighter jets, and then I had something wrong on the radar station, and the IFF response or something, is what I called it in the book. So he, gave me a good talking to, which I will always miss. And one of the things I do to celebrate him and his life on Father's Day is that I watch some episodes of Macross, specifically the really annoying episode with Minmay singing. There's a bunch of Minmay singing, but at the end of Macross, I guess, the season 1 of the, 3-part Robotech saga, there's Minmay sings, I think, In the Snow, which I remember the first time I saw that. I think it sings In the Snow. I may be getting 2 episodes mixed up. But it affects the alien fighters, and, the fighting comes to an end because Minmay is singing. And this goes into the law of attraction and positivity, because it is the power of Minmay's song which literally stops the war between the Zentradi and the humans. And they're after, I think, later on with Bowie and Musica and the Flower of Life, but they're after culture, proto-culture. Okay? And it's basically, it's a battle for culture and a battle for the world. And it's this one little annoying, and let me tell you, Minmay is quite annoying. Now, my dad loved Minmay, but she really got me upset because she was just a little too wussy. Yeah, she's definitely waifu material. I will say that. More power to her. She got that down over Nisa Hayes. But Misa can kick some general butt, and so can Claudia. More power to you, Roy Fokker. And that was another scene that I always watch when Roy Fokker dies, and Claudia is there. That's a big deal. And that brings me back to my childhood. But why the red card? Because of ghosts. And it is these ghosts of the past from the old energy, and the battles that I had to fight, getting whacked in the face with glass ceilings because, you're the wrong person of color, or whatever. It does not matter, how smart you are or whatever. There's always something wrong. You're neurodivergent, you're LGBT, you're whatever. It doesn't matter. Whatever. That's how the world worked in the past, But this is not that world. This world is different. This world is changing. This is the world of Min May's voice. This is the world of Macross Zero, where the indigenous high priestess and Mao, I think her name is Mao, the little sister of the priestess. The high priestess is like a young adult, and she's trapped in the old ways, singing the old songs. But there's one part where she's like in an underground cave, and she raises her arms and sings a traditional song, and literally plants that are dead come back to life. Okay, but she's part of the old ways, and there's no electricity on the island, but her little sister, who's literally, I don't know, grade school kid, is running around, and like the minute she sees, I guess, a pilot crash lands on the island and revamps their generator and brings this indigenous people electricity for the first time, the priestess's little sister, Mao, who's literally like in the 5th grade, is all like, oh my god, there's electricity? Wow, there's like a new way to do things. Now, Mao's sister, the priestess, who can bring the flowers to life on land, it is Mao, the 5th grader, who can swim with the dolphins. And she can talk to them. And when the fish fly and she sees the first Veritech jet fighter aircraft crash, she first calls that, it's Birdman the god. She'd never seen a fighter jet before. And so, yeah, something flying in the air with a bright light, I would call that, I've never seen that before, and I'm growing up, like that, where there's gods and rocks and trees and I can talk to them. Well, yeah, a jet plane is Birdman flying across the sky. Well, there's a bunch of new technology that's coming, and I have faith that it will be wonderful, But one of the things I write about in my book is that we need to be careful about that. And we need to make sure. One of the things that's going on right now in society is that the laws are way behind the technology. And things that can be done on the dark web and, I don't know, selling people, selling organs, selling illicit drugs, selling things that shouldn't be sold, intellectual property, trademark and copyright infringement, to name a few. Crime. I write about hackers. If you read Gridscan Dark, half that book takes place on the Gridscan. I guess you would call that, half of that, the dark web. But whatever. That's not the point. The point is, Hamlet got a red card. And so, like I said, I am definitely a law of attraction newbie, and, I fight to, stay in positivity land, and a lot of that is because, I've experienced depression and trauma and anxiety, and that's definitely something that I need to work on, and that is my shadow work. That is my responsibility. The things that happened in the past are in the past. I now have an opportunity. Every day the sun comes up and I come up with it, I have a new opportunity to learn something new and become a better version of who I am. And so you know what? In the past, in the old energy, I would have picked up the sword and gone at it. And 80 hours a week, and the harder you worked, and the harder you fought, that got to wherever you were going to go. And yeah, I crashed some glass ceilings, let me tell you, that I probably wasn't supposed to come anywhere near. But there were a lot of things, that I didn't get to do. And that's okay, because, it wasn't meant. The universe is something better for me to do, something different, and I got to write my books. I said I want to write one book and sell one book. Well, I wrote about 40 books or more and, sold more than one book, multiple books, made a game, made a visual novel, made indie web series, made a manga. I did all that. If I had listened to the people that said stop, shut up, go away, no, you can't do that, you're asking a fifth grader who likes anime, who wants to grow up and be a manga artist, and you're telling a fifth grader, no, you can't live your dream. Well, guess what? 1 month ago, my original manga with all of my original drawings that I put together won 2 awards within the same week. So what was that about telling the 5th grader you're never going to do something? You can do anything you set your mind to. And in this wonderful law of attraction, whatever you can dream up, whatever you want to do, if you can think it with intent, and again, I'm still working on the intent part, I got a little, throw out that shame baggage thing. I mean, I got a whole life worth of, oops, you didn't turn in your time card, you suck. Well, that's a time card, and a time card doesn't define me, so I definitely don't suck. That's your own insecurity. Yeah, I'll admit, I messed up and turned in the time card late or completely ADHD forgot, but that time card does not define who I am. I've been having people tell me who I am my entire life. The only person who can tell you who you are is you. Okay? If you don't know who you are, well, your purpose on the planet is to find out who you are. That's your purpose. Okay, you get lost, then get back up. You get swayed, or the Joneses are doing this thing, or they have a fancy car, I want one too. Well, go get your fancy car. Earn it. Get it for the right reason. Because if you go, here's an example of that. I dated somebody in college who you would say was royalty, and you can go look that up if you'd like. And this person, I think it was sophomore year, it was either a new BMW or a new Mercedes shipped overseas because it was this person's birthday. Okay? I don't know if this person asked for it, but, all of a sudden, my new BMW shows up. Okay? I think, literally, there are a bunch of people in the BMW. Literally, this car was totaled and crashed, I think, within 24 hours of it being received. So, obviously, that toy wasn't worth it if I'm going to destroy it 5 minutes later, because either I didn't care or it was just a piece of paper or show to say, ooh, I did this, or mommy gave it to me. Well, mommy gave it to me is not something that was earned. And that goes back to what I did. I walked away. I went to work, when I was in college. I didn't have to do that. But the work that I did, I worked at a clothing store, and every night, or at least once a week, I cleaned toilets for the store. Luckily, I think there was 2 toilets, maybe 1. I cleaned toilets for the store. And you know what? Cleaning toilets is just as honorable a job as being a CEO in the biggest tech company. And I would say the person who's cleaning toilets, that's not making $1 billion a year. Just like I would pay teachers maybe more than professional sports players, because I think teachers may be a bit more valuable in the end. You know, I'm hoping this intent thing, that we can right some of the imbalances that are there, and that we can put the ghosts of the past behind us. Because literally, that ghost from the past, that baggage, that baggage was the shield to the sword, the bow to the arrow, the thing that won the battle in the past energy. But we're not burning witches at the stake anymore. Thank God. However, I think we may still be sending, we're talking about me. I've heard my share of, go straight to hell. Well, guess what? I went to a Catholic university, so I think I do know where hell is, because I think I've been told at least once or twice, So yeah, tranny, go to hell. I know where hell is. I think I've been there a couple times. So yeah. And, I would not recommend it. I'd try to stay away from it. But, with darkness comes light. If you don't have dark, what does light mean? But we're no longer in the time of dark. We're now in a position where we can spread a light of love that can change the world. Right now, there are people suffering, and there are people in pain. There are people that don't have a roof over their head, or the place that they were living was consumed by a natural disaster, or an air raid siren went off and someone dropped shells on someone's head as a tank blew up in front of your front door, and there's a child soldier running around with a gun trying to save his sister who got kidnapped because she's not allowed to go to school because she's a girl and she has to cover her face. Well, last time I looked, and the world I write in my books, girls have every right to go to school, as do boys. And in the Psi faction, which is the most powerful counterintelligence team in the Gridscan universe, the most powerful person in that book is codenamed Zune. And she is a woman. And she is somebody that I would not want to mess with on a good day or a bad day. And she is part of a group called the Triumvirate. Okay? Her and Zen and Zido. Okay? Sounds like a trinity to me. And Zune is intelligent. She's literally running an intelligence agency. She is the most powerful character in the book, next to Een, or Jean, as she is called in the visual novel. And Jean is a transgender female prophet translator. She can see the past, the present, and the future all at the same time in dreams. And she literally works with the political parties in power, giving them guidance on how to direct the future and end war. Yeah, there are pilots. Yeah, there's clandestine psychic assassins. And yeah, there's Ryuho. He's kind of a real messed up in the head sociopath, psychopath villain out to get his brother by any means necessary because of some silly childhood spite when he was 8. But that's not the point. The ghosts of the past need to stay in the past. And I'm in the process on my journey of self-esteem and finding myself, and like literally I said, this law of attraction thing. Okay? I understand philosophically and spiritually, but let me tell you, I gotta wrangle those emotions in. But you know what? It's a little condescending if you tell somebody who is fighting with depression and anxiety will just be positive. Okay? If somebody is fighting with depression and they're at the point where, they'd rather give up the ghost and just stop being alive because it's that painful, okay? If you tell somebody, just be positive, that's literally negating the fact that they exist. It's like telling a transgender person, I'm not going to honor your pronouns or call you by your name. It's invalidating. And I know that I have struggled over these last 2 weeks, bombarded by a bunch of crap. And have a boundary now, but every now and then, something's going to remind me, trauma bond, whatever, I'm going to flip into a flashback and we're back in negativity land. And that is not a good place to be, let me tell you. I definitely don't want to be there. I would rather be happy, with intent and dreaming every single minute of the day. But I know that this is reality. And I'm not going to be happy every single moment of the day. But I can definitely work on myself and continue working. And if I fall down, I'm going to get up. Because guess what? I used to have a sword and fight battles every single day. So you think some silly, ooh, you forgot your time card, or ooh, I don't like you, gonna stop me? Do you know the sword I have? It doesn't matter. That's not the point. The point is, whatever. So what I want to say, I guess this is to anybody who's ever dealt with, gender dysphoria or self-esteem issues or self-worth or shame or guilt or abuse or, pain or hurt or whatever life is throwing at us. Because, life throws stuff at us all the time. And it doesn't matter how much you plan stuff out, there is going to be a curveball, but just let me tell you, God never gives you things you can't handle. In the end, the universe is in control. And the lessons that anybody who is lucky enough to be alive and have a life on Gaia, there's a lesson to learn. There's a becoming to be. Okay? Our purpose here is to become the best versions of ourselves. And if you believe in reincarnation, learn the lessons you didn't learn the last time. I've fought a lot of battles. It's time for me to take my pen, that is my sword, and instead of using it to fight, it is time for me to use my pen to educate. It is time for me to use my pen to grow, to dream, to help. The reason I wrote books in the first place is because I never wanted anybody else to have to feel the things that I have felt in my life. That's literally it. I wrote a book, one book. I wanted to sell one copy. I sold one copy. But I will never forget that day on Facebook where a transgender girl who was struggling with mental health and had been homeless reached out to me and sent me a Facebook message after I released Grid Scan A Storm's Coming, which was my first indie manga. It's literally about Ram, whose name means read-only memory, thrown out on the street after the government picked him up for hacking and erased his memory. Threw him out on the street with no money, no name. He had no idea who he was. He just now a homeless nobody. A piece of crap that somebody is going to, with a hat out on the street begging for change, and the people in the city are just going to walk by him like he's a piece of crap, because he's a homeless kid on the street. He's dirty. Well, guess what? That homeless kid is a noble and is actually the son of the lead minister of parliament. But that's his past life. And he gave up his past life to be in the echelons, in the slums, to use his hacking skills to help and right the wrongs and the corruption. And he decided to do that, even when he was given the opportunity to go back to the pristine city and live in the mansion with his father and all the money and power and anything that he could have. The emperor of the city actually gives him that choice, because they needed to use his hacking skills. And Rom literally turned that life down and said, I'd rather go back to the slums because that's where I can be of help. He had everything. He gave it up because of his integrity, because he was needed, because he had a mission. That was wrong. Read-only memory. He let his baggage go. Rom's memory was erased. He was used as a lad brat. He had no say in the matter. They did whatever they were going to do to him because they could. They were the all-powerful. He was just some kid with the wrong knowledge at the wrong time. They didn't really understand that, they erased his memory. But memories cascade when you don't update the batch, and you forgot that Rom was cyber-wired and he had a skin job in his arm. So Rom is now the voice of Pakra Underground, doing what Rom is doing in love and compassion to help. That's why Rom was the first character, the hacker, the homeless hacker on the street, the very first Gridskin character ever created. So why the red card on Hamlet? Because back in that 9th grade, where Hamlet and the ghost of his father, the ghosts of the past have got a say in the past. And I'm standing on the deck of the ship with the baggage, and I'm literally hurling it because I'm about to throw it overboard. We're right there. You can do that too. But do it my pace, my way, my time. Whatever is right for you. I have full faith in you, like I have faith in everybody else in the universe, in the world, because the universe is good, and Gaia is love, and this is who we are, and we are all beautiful. Thank you.